Have you ever felt a subtle shift in a conversation? A moment where the energy changes and you feel a faint, almost imperceptible pressure you can't quite name. It's not an outright demand or a clear conflict. It's quieter than that. People rarely storm across your boundaries in one fell swoop. Instead, they test them. They send out small, exploratory probes to see where the line is. They do this quietly, often without conscious malice, but the effect is the same. It's a dance of unspoken expectations and silent negotiations. These small tests are the precursors to bigger asks and deeper encroachments. They are the initial soundings taken before a ship enters an unfamiliar harbor, checking the depth, looking for hazards. If you don't notice these subtle tests, you might find your lines have been redrawn for you, without you ever giving your consent. Understanding this quiet language is the first step toward reclaiming your space. Boundary testing often begins with something small, something that seems almost trivial to refuse. A minor favor, a small request for your time, an opinion on a personal matter. It's the friend who asks to borrow a small amount of money, just until payday. It's the colleague who asks you to stay a few minutes late to help with something that is not your responsibility. On the surface, these are simple requests. The real test isn't in the request itself, but in how they observe your reaction. They are not just listening to your yes or no. They are watching your hesitation, your body language, the tone of your voice. Do you agree instantly, with a smile? Or do you pause, looking slightly uncomfortable before conceding? This is valuable data. An easy yes signals that the channel is open for more and potentially larger requests. A hesitant yes suggests the boundary is soft and can be pushed with a little more effort next time. They learn that your verbal agreement might not align with your internal comfort and that your comfort is secondary. It's a silent calibration. They are not just asking for a favor. They are gauging your propensity to yield. Each time you give in against your better judgment, you are teaching them that your boundaries are flexible, that your time and energy are theirs for the taking. The requests will slowly escalate, each one just a little bigger than the last, built upon the foundation of your previous concessions. It's a slow erosion, not a sudden collapse. And because it starts so small, you often don't realize the extent of the shift until you feel overwhelmed, overcommitted, and resentful, wondering how you got there. It started with that one small, seemingly insignificant request you didn't feel you could refuse. Humor is another powerful tool for testing boundaries, precisely because it's so deniable. A joke can be a Trojan horse, carrying a hidden expectation or a subtle critique wrapped in laughter. Think of the backhanded compliment that's framed as a light-hearted jab, or the teasing that hits a little too close to an insecurity. The person delivering it will watch you closely. Do you laugh along, even if you feel a sting of discomfort? Your laughter is interpreted as consent. It signals that this topic, this level of intimacy, or this form of interaction is acceptable. The classic defense, if you were to object, is immediate. "I was just joking, can't you take a joke?" This phrase is a masterful deflection. It reframes your valid emotional response as an overreaction, a lack of a sense of humor. Suddenly, you are the one with the problem, not the person who made you uncomfortable. You are put on the defensive, forced to justify your feelings. Most people in that moment will back down. They will force a smile and agree it was just a joke to avoid social friction. But in that moment of silent acceptance, the boundary shifts. You have just non-verbally communicated that this kind of humor, at your expense, is permissible. The jokes may become more pointed, more frequent. The pressure increases, but always under the guise of being fun and unserious. This creates a difficult dynamic, where your own discomfort becomes a source of their amusement. The expectation is that you will continue to play along, to be the good sport. To object is to be a killjoy. So you endure, and with each uncomfortable laugh, you give away another piece of your emotional territory. Then there is the art of guilt framing. This is perhaps one of the most insidious forms of boundary testing because it bypasses the act of asking altogether. Instead of making a direct request, some people will frame a situation in a way that implies your obligation. They create a narrative where your help, your time, or your emotional support is not just wanted, but expected. They don't ask, "Could you help me with this?" They say things like, I don't know how I'm going to get this done all by myself, while looking at you expectantly. They might sigh heavily, talk at length about their struggles, or express disappointment in a way that makes you feel responsible for their happiness. This is not a request. It's an emotional summons. You are made to feel that if you don't step in, you are being selfish, uncaring, or unhelpful. They are manufacturing a sense of debt that you never agreed to. They paint a picture of their need and place you squarely in the role of the savior. Refusing to play that role feels like a moral failing. This tactic preys on our natural empathy and desire to be seen as a good person. We feel the weight of their unspoken expectation and often capitulate just to alleviate the feeling of guilt they have so skillfully induced. It is a powerful form of manipulation because it makes your boundary feel like a betrayal of them. They haven't crossed a line you've drawn. They've simply made you feel bad for having a line in the first place. Over time, this can create a deeply unhealthy dynamic where you feel constantly responsible for another person's emotional state or practical problems, draining your own resources in the process. So why is it so crucial to recognize and maintain these boundaries? Because your boundaries are a direct reflection of your self-respect. They are the invisible lines that define who you are, what you value, and how you expect to be treated. They are not walls to keep people out, but rather gates that you control. You decide who to let in, how far, and under what conditions. When you have weak or non-existent boundaries, you are essentially telling the world that you do not value your own time, your own energy, or your own emotional well-being very much. And if you don't value them, why should anyone else? Without clear boundaries, you leave it up to others to decide your limits for you. And people, by nature, will often take as much as you are willing to give. They will fill whatever space you leave empty. This isn't always malicious. Sometimes it's simply human nature. But the result is the same. You end up feeling used, resentful, and powerless. Your life becomes a reaction to the demands and expectations of others, rather than a conscious creation of your own. Establishing boundaries is an act of self-definition. It's you, telling yourself and the world, this is me, this is where I end and you begin, this is what I am okay with, and this is what I am not. It is the fundamental practice of taking care of yourself, of honoring your own needs as valid and important. A person with strong boundaries navigates the world with a quiet confidence, not because they are confrontational, but because they are clear. They are the architects of their own lives, not merely tenants in a space designed by others. Now, how do you respond when you feel a boundary being tested? The most common misconception is that setting a boundary requires aggression, confrontation, or a dramatic showdown. This fear of conflict is what keeps so many of us silent. But the most effective boundaries are not enforced with anger. They are communicated with clarity. You don't need to raise your voice. You don't need to provide a long defensive explanation. Often, a simple, calm, and firm response is all that is required. For the small request you don't have the capacity for, a simple, "I'm sorry I can't do that right now," is enough. You don't owe anyone a detailed reason. No is a complete sentence. For the joke that makes you uncomfortable, you don't have to laugh. You can simply hold a neutral expression and say, "I don't find that funny," or change the subject. The lack of the expected reaction is a powerful message in itself. For the guilt framing, you can show empathy without taking responsibility. That sounds really difficult. I hope you're able to figure it out. This acknowledges their feeling without accepting the unspoken burden. The key is to be consistent and calm. Your demeanor communicates that this isn't a personal attack or a moment of anger. It is simply a statement of your reality. It's a fact. This is your line. People who respect you will understand and adjust. People who push back, who argue, who try to make you feel guilty for your clarity, they are revealing that their interest was never in a balanced relationship, but in what they could get from you. And that, in itself, is valuable information. Your boundary did its job. It filtered out those who do not have your best interests at heart. Remember, clarity is kindness. It's kind to yourself, and it's ultimately kind to the other person, as it lets them know exactly where they stand. You are not rejecting them, you are simply honoring yourself. Thanks for watching.